Right, hello everyone. Thanks for coming along to this talk. It's nice packed room, which is reassuring to a degree, except for me, yeah, but for everyone else. So yeah, as we've alluded to already, today we're introducing a new tool that we've created. I just want to kick off. Some of you have known me for a few years, but just to introduce myself. So my name is David Acland. I'm a Mac admin and have been working in the Apple space for coming up to 26 years now, despite the youthful looks, not as young as I look. And currently working in a dual role. One of my roles is as CTO at a company called Orchard. A tiny bit about my background, just kind of add a bit of credibility. So I started at this point. I don't know if anyone ever worked on those machines, but that was my starting point. The summer 2000 iMacs and taking them apart and fixing them under an ASP. I won't bore you with the whole history lesson, but progressed on to being an Apple certified trainer for about 7 years, 2002, 2009 roughly. That was when we got to talk about Xserve RAIDs. I was one of the few Apple XAN trainers talking about NetBoot and things, all the technologies that now don't exist, which is kind of sad. But I did get to do lots of traveling around the world and meet loads of interesting people, so that was good. After that, we started under the same company called Amsys. Some of you might remember Amsys. It was an Apple authorized service provider, but we decided to create an MSP arm to the business, so delivering projects. I started getting customers on the training side that said, can you just come and install the service for us rather than teach us how to do it? That progressed, and we built a nice successful team that ran for another block of years. Just before the end of that part, I did take a little segue and built a conference called MacAD UK that some of you are now familiar with. That's progressed. That was under Amsys, then changed ownership a few times. But yeah, back in 2016, that was when it all started in a little theatre in London. Last change for me was in 2018 when myself and business partner decided to break away from Amsys and build a new MSP, Apple-focused MSP that we ran for the last 8 years and still going strong. Really proud that that's grown to managing tens of thousands of devices and year-on-year growth, which is fantastic. But as you can see from the kind of pattern here, about every 7 to 8 years, I get a bit of an itch, a little bit of boredom can kick in. You're like, we need to do something new. What's new? What's challenging? What's the problem we're trying to solve? And that's where we've got to this point. So a tiny bit about the problem that we're trying to solve. As Mac admins, obviously, we're responsible for deploying Macs, securing and patching them, and that's been the same for a number of years. It used to be much more about deployment, and then in recent years, it's much more about patching and the ongoing maintenance of them. That's where products like Jamf have traditionally shined, providing some of those services. As an MSP, one of the problems is the level of compliance. And when we look at patching, if we say how many of the apps where updates have been released, how many of them have successfully installed within the last 2 weeks or 4 weeks, or even 3 months sometimes, and the compliance level was quite shocking. And it was a problem as an MSP because we're held really, really accountable for that type of thing. The issue we're seeing is you set up, and these are organizations that have an MDM, it's fully configured, should be fully capable, but settings don't land, patches sometimes fail to deploy for reasons unknown, and the security coverage generally drops. The other issue is the pressure on this area at the moment. So there's more scrutiny, people want patches delivered faster, there's security teams running VMDR tools that are highlighting issues, and it's really shining a light on this problem where previously you kind of got away with it to a degree, but now we don't. Now, the team, the MSP team that we run have had a product that we've been using for a number of years, probably close to 10 years now actually, solving these exact problems. The issue is that we just keep it to ourselves, and it's a Moof IT specific tool that is not shared with anyone else. For anyone to have access to it, you have to have a contract with Moof, and then we deliver the service much like a lot of MSPs out there. What we wanted, and we're having more and more conversations with people at the moment, is that they don't want a contract with an MSP. They don't want to outsource something necessarily. They've got an Apple person. They know how to do stuff. We just need a tool that works, basically. And that's where we have taken what we have learned throughout the last 10 years and turned it into a SaaS application called Orchard. So before I go further, I'm just going to show a quick video. I'm hoping the sound doesn't blow the ears off.
Most Mac environments operate without full visibility. Applications fall behind, updates are missed, compliance declines. Traditional MDM tools report status, they don't enforce outcomes, and the numbers show it. 1 in 3 Macs aren't patched, and it gets worse. More than half your estate unprotected. Introducing Orchard. Orchard is the macOS security and compliance platform built to fix this automatically. It works as a standalone platform, no MDM required. And if you already use Jamf, Intune, or another MDM, Orchard works seamlessly alongside it. Orchard discovers every application across your Apple estate. It's highly configurable, ensuring devices meet your exact compliance standards. Patches are applied quickly and consistently. No manual intervention, no scripting, no operational drift. If a device moves out of compliance, Orchard detects it and remediates automatically. No endpoint is overlooked. This isn't another reporting layer, it's continuous enforcement. With Orchard, compliance isn't a static percentage on a dashboard. It's verified, monitored, and maintained in real time. Deploy once, operate with confidence. Apple device security you can rely on. Orchard.
Now, some of you might be thinking at this point, this is just another patching tool, come on. We've seen these before, and there's a bunch out there. Which is fair, patching is one of the things it does. Now, the key difference, and as the MSP, what we've always sold to customers is patching is one of the activities that we do, but really it's an assured outcome. We have consistently maintained the high 90% compliance, typically 98% plus, across app patching, macOS patching, and the CIS controls across all the devices we manage. And this isn't a new tool for us. This is something we've been working on for the last 10 years, and we're managing tens of thousands of devices globally across all sorts of different organizations and maintaining that level of compliance. As an MSP, that's what we needed because we need to differentiate ourselves from everyone else. But now the market is kind of needing that level of compliance as well. There's more and more cyber attacks, vulnerable bits of software, and we need a tool that just works. So the assured outcome is one of the key parts to this. The second part is about platform security, and this is something that we take really, really seriously because to be able to do this, you need to be able to install an agent on the endpoint, and you need to have some kind of platform that it talks to get its rules and patching and do all its relevant actions. And that's really scary because that agent can do kind of whatever it wants. It's got near enough root access. It can gather data. It can send data out. The difficult thing here is if you go out, look on the internet, see what's out there, you don't want to be just grabbing any old agent that's out there. So, oh, this does patching for me, put it on my 1,000 Macs, 2,000 Macs, 5,000 Macs, and hope for the best. I mean, I personally wouldn't sleep at night if I was the IT person doing that without knowing that platform. That platform's got to be really, really secure. And what we typically see, or what we see quite often, there's a minimum path to get something launched as a platform. So you create your website, obviously. You create your Apple developer accounts. You write your code. Hopefully you test it. And then you publish it. This is the minimum you can do to get something out there. But there's problems with this. There's a lot more that you have to do. First of all, there's all the design elements. So there's the product design to make sure it actually makes sense and it flows. Infrastructure to make sure everything is really, really solid, secure, disaster recovery has been considered, where the data is hosted, what data, how is it encrypted. UI and UX to make sure that it's actually usable by the end users, which I won't name any products, but there's some out there that I've seen. I'm like, what on earth? What on earth is that? Security, so we have a security team, CISO, helping us with this. You need a secure software development lifecycle because having supply chain attacks on this is a massive issue. Last thing we want as Orchard is to be distributing bad software to someone, or software that's got a vulnerability, or software that's been compromised. So that SSDLC part is a whole workflow in itself. You need vulnerability management processes, you need automated code scanning and so on. Then accreditations to prove that you're actually audited and you've done your due diligence, you're working to known standards. You need a 24/7 SOC to make sure that everything's monitored and any issues are detected automatically. You need pen testing. Normally it's annual, but like we think you should do it way more often than, it's like doing an MOT for your car every year. It's not really good enough. And so on. There's way more that you could put on this slide. So you can take that software that has been written. Someone described it to me a while ago as like bedroom coding, where we can write something, and we could have gone down that route, but we're like, no, let's make something that's secure, trusted, and known working. Now, the next part, quick preview of the product. We're going to give you a quick tour of some of the things what it looks like, what it's doing. There's a few parts I'll point out just as we go through that are a little different, but one of the differentiators here is that it's an assured outcome. This software works really, really well. So unsurprisingly, we're not doing it the same as everyone else because we'd get the same results. So there is a web platform, obviously, modern responsive web platform, and there's a Swift agent that sits on the device. There is a GUI to it as well. For those users that like to run tools, like security tools, not very often, but sometimes they might want to launch it themselves and interact with it. It's been built as a SaaS platform from the ground up. So once launched, you'll be able to go to the website, sign up, self-register, add your device. It's fully managed by you. So no sort of other contract or anything else involved. Initial accounts are obviously like this. It will use SSO as well, unsurprisingly, so it'll link into your IDP because that's needed. We won't charge you more for that because I think that's unpopular these days. And then it will take you to a dashboard. The dashboard, now this product is app patching, macOS patching, and security controls. It's not trying to do a million different things. It's not an MDM, which is a key part. We've got enough MDMs, and I think the last thing we needed today was like, here's another MDM for you to consider and look at. Instead, it does what it does really, really well. So the dashboard gives you the view of your patching status for macOS and apps. Adding devices, currently you download the PKG from the portal, and there's a command to register with a unique key that you can obviously take that, put it into your MDM or whatever workflow you want to mass deploy or run locally on devices. So pretty normal stuff here. And then once you've got the devices in there, they'll be listed as standard, serial numbers, and some high-level information on there about the overall compliance of those devices, looking at security, macOS, and so on. Adobe called out specifically on this slide, just because Adobe is its own beast, but we do cater for Adobe as well with a slight twist. So it will detect the apps that are installed, tell you whether it's on the correct version or not, and you can zoom out to a group level or to organization level to see, where is everything out? Are there any gaps, any anomalies? You can obviously create groups because we need to do that. So there will be a default group, which will be your standard setup for most devices, but you can create different groups for developers or other people with different needs, of course. Standard, pilot, and automatic is just an extra setting. Pilot means is related to app patching and macOS patching specifically, where it's an expedited patch. That's just so that you get a smaller group that is ahead of everyone else, which we need. Automatic is for those kind of education settings, shared use devices in university labs, that type of thing, where we just need the patching to run without user intervention, automatic, silent, and just get on with it. So setting up patching, there's a couple of global rules that we kind of set up. One of the differences here, we don't install updates based on a number of days since the vendor released the update. This is a process we've been following for the last kind of 8-10 years with a lot of success, a lot of good feedback from end customers. A couple of reasons for it. One, it groups the updates into a single event for the user within that cycle. It's not kind of a continual, here's an update today, and then next day here's another update, and another update, and another update. And every day they've got an IT task to do. It just groups into a single event, done, move on, get back to their work. The other reason is just predictability for the IT team, knowing when it's at scale, you know what versions are locked in for that cycle and what's getting pushed out to the devices. So you don't get kind of from one day to the next, the version numbers changing, different apps. So when people say, oh, there's an issue with this or there's an issue with that, in this case, it's much more predictable and we know what's going on. We do have a critical patch function in here. So if you do get an alert from the security team to say, we need to patch Chrome, Firefox, something else, or as of yesterday, any OpenAI tools on devices, then you can click a button to make a patch for that will just run immediately across devices. So you can do expedited patching if you need to. But for all the others, it just sticks within a predictable pattern. The only other things we've got here, so some deferral options, which I'll show you on the end device in a second what that looks like. And also during meetings, you can decide what the behavior is, whether you want to be aggressive and just say, well, we're just going to force the patch regardless. Our default is if someone is in an online meeting, it will silently defer for an hour and come back because people don't like having teams just quit randomly in the middle of a meeting, generally. And then we can create individual patch policies. The individual patch policies are targeted to groups, and this is where you decide what software gets patched for different groups. But this is apps that are discovered across the devices. So most people just want everything patched, but sometimes you get particular edge cases where you don't want to patch particular apps for a particular team for one reason or another. So on the Mac, the user can obviously launch the app, they can interact with it, they can trigger certain things. One of the things they can trigger is the app updates. They can do individual app updates if they want. They can just trigger to run all of them, but it will be the apps based in that patch cycle. So what has been locked in and agreed, and again, that predictability. If they get the pop-up, they can also, it'll say, here's what needs to be updated, and they can say, no, tell me at another time. Users quite like this, and it also helps the IT team because the user has chosen when to be reminded, which means it's only telling them that like they chose it, basically. They're not going to come to you and say, why did it do it again? It's like, well, you selected the option, which is just a bit nicer. Not every user runs the updates as soon as they're asked. I don't know if you've ever experienced that before. So you do have to force, generally, probably 99.9% of the time, you have to force them to do it. So that is a final pop-up. We'd still give them another hour at that point and say, hey, you really need to patch your device now. It's only a couple of apps. It typically take minutes to run. They get the hour's warning. They can finish what they're doing, and they can click update now at any point. But if timer runs out, then patching is going to run, and that's it. So that's our patches. From a very high level. macOS updates are handled a bit differently. Some of you will be familiar with some other tools out there, things like Nudge and so on. We do find that running the macOS updates via system settings is one of the most reliable ways you can run it. DDM aside, DDM is showing a lot of promise, and it actually seems to be a lot better than previous MDM attempts at enforcing macOS updates. But what it doesn't cater for is what if there's an issue. That Mac just isn't running the updates correctly. There's they're getting an error. DDM's not going to help. You're still going to get gaps. You're still going to get devices not up to date. In this case, it's just an enforcement system. So the user will get a pop-up. You choose what apps will be blocked. And you basically restrict at an app level. We give you a couple of easy buttons like just add all the browsers or just add the Microsoft apps, but you can pick any apps you want, depending on, we did have one case where we enforced it on the browsers, so no browser would run on the device, and the user was just like, well, I only use Photoshop. I'm like, okay, didn't expect that one. Like they were strong resistance fighters at that point. But then we just added Photoshop and went, oh, okay, there you go. Now I have to patch. So the end device, they get pop-ups to say there are updates available. This is obviously depending on when macOS released their updates, but obviously it's way less frequent, and it's effectively like patching one app, basically. So they get their notifications to run the updates. They can do it at any time, but it will go via system settings. Those cases where the software updates just aren't running on the Mac correctly, like they actually do try and do it, and it fails for some reason, gives them some kind of Apple, can't contact the Apple software update server error, it weeds them out. It means their browsers get blocked. They then call IT and say, right, I tried to run the update, but it couldn't run, but at least you know about it. At least you can then deal with it. The problem is, if it doesn't do that, they'll just go on forever not updating, and you don't know why that one device is just falling behind. And as soon as they run the update, obviously the Mac reboots because it's a macOS update, and then all back to normal at that point. We've, again, been using this across a lot of devices, across lots of organizations, and the users do not complain in the slightest. Because when that happens and their browsers quit, they know why. Like, they know they ignored the last 14 prompts in a row, so they just quietly update. As I said, it does have security controls in there as well. This was something we just run generally anyway, and it's just part of the whole pack to kind of manage the device. We monitor full CIS. We monitor full CIS benchmarks, so CIS level 1, CIS level 2. We have a number of other controls that we add in there, which are just ones that people have kind of requested over time. I think one of them is AirDrop set to contacts only. It's just one of those ones someone asked for us a couple of years ago, and we're like, actually, that's kind of fair, makes sense. So we add that in, and a few others. You can create individual policies for different groups of computers, set whatever controls you want, that's it. Or you could just click, just add CIS level 1, and that's it. When it comes to, so it monitors all of them. When it comes to enforcement, this is not an MDM. So we will enforce any of the controls that are command line based. Any that aren't command line based defers to the MDM to enforce. However, being a separate tool, this will monitor all of them, so it can keep an eye on the MDM and make sure they're actually sticking, landing, like actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. So, because you need to know if there's a couple of devices out there that don't have firewall on, like you want to be told that. So that's a quick run through a lot of the interface. There's a bit more to it, but that's kind of some of the highlights. When it comes to getting your hands on the tool, we're aiming for July 2026. We're actually aiming for June 2026, but let's put July because that's safer. Or sooner, but that's what we're aiming for. We've got it running currently, but we're going through a lot of beta testing at the moment to make sure everything, because this has got to work perfectly. And when it comes to buying the product, because it is a commercial app, there's 3 different routes you can go through. You can buy it direct if that's your preference. You sign up yourself, pay directly in the portal. That's it. You can go via resellers if you use resellers, and if you want to use purchase orders and all that kind of stuff, then you just go to your reseller. We have a number of resellers signed up already, like ready to go. Any resellers that aren't aware of this, then please get in touch and we'll work with you to get added. Then we have a separate reseller agreement. And we also have a version for MSPs. So anyone managing multiple organizations running as an MSP, then you can use this tool, and it's a multi-tenant environment, so you can switch between different tenants and manage them. But one contract, one invoice under that MSP agreement. So 3 different flavors depending on your requirements. So one more thing. I think a lot of you are probably already aware of this anyway, but at the comfort break at 4:10, we will be taking a photo in the main exhibition hall of everyone in a group wearing the Orchard hat. And if you're wearing the Orchard hat and you're in the photo, then you're in the draw to win an Apple Vision Pro 2. If you're not in the photo, then you're not in it, and that's that. So 4:10, there is a QR code, I think Henry said.
Yeah, you have to, once the video, you have to scan the QR code.
Scan the QR code, yeah, okay. Cool. So anyway, just a little enticement there for you. That is it from me. So thank you very much for listening. last thing to mention is on the website, there is a register your interest button. That's just so that you can be notified if, as and when it's made available for those that are interested. You can also do traditional emails and things if you so wish. All right, so I think all that's left now, got a bit of time. So any questions from people? I'm flinching already, but go on, Dan.
API? API?
Yes, yes. So we're working on, there's a lot of thought gone into what does someone want in the API. Being able to read the state out into a scene tool is one definite thing that people are going to want, so that the security team can feel happy because it's all in one place and so on. No writing back at the moment because it's kind of, all you do, you go into the portal, it's about 5 minutes to set it up. Like, it's not that complicated to do, so there's no real need for that kind of API, and that's a bit dangerous, way more dangerous to do, whereas reading data. But yeah, so definitely planned.
And where are the patches coming from?
We hold them. The reason for that is we worry, again, about the supply chain attacks. So we take all of the vendors' installers. If it's an installer, we don't mess with it. It stays as the vendor's installer, but we do test it. So we test it from a security perspective. We run the installer. These are all automated flows that happen, but we test the installer, make sure that, and all the files inside it, make sure there's no malicious software in there. We test it from a functionality point of view. We make sure the installer runs. We make sure the app launches after install to make sure that, like, it's not. We had a case with some I think Display Link Manager a year or so ago where it's just a dead, from the vendor, it just installs a dead app, which is unhelpful. So we catch that. Yeah, and then it goes into our repository as like, okay, known good version, and goes into the repository. Then it's available. So there's a lot more prepping before it's just made available, as opposed to just point you to the URL and say good luck, basically. So we try not to do that. I think there's a question over this side somewhere. Hey.
Actually, I was wondering about the curation. You already talked a bit like this, but what about apps that are distributed, for example, on the App Store, or in addition to a manual download? How do you choose which version and the source of the app, and in an environment with a lot of scientific apps, obscure apps, someone needs to compile and all these things. Do you also take this into account?
Yeah, I mean, we actually find, certainly in that world, there's kind of less App Store and more just those weird and wonderful apps that need packaging, which a lot of them we've worked as under the MSP. We've worked with a lot of different types of organisations. One being like a medical research company, another scientific organisation, also research universities. Loads and loads of weird and wonderful apps. So they all get catered for. If it's from the App Store, we leave it alone because that's down to the MDM to manage, and we stick to our lane basically and say this is our bit. App Store is down to the MDM and Apple, and that's that. Hey.
How many third-party apps do you currently support?
300. Well, so to answer that question, I would say the right 350 at the moment. We've been running this, as I said, because we've been running it for quite a few years. We do analyse kind of en masse, like what apps are needed by different organisations. So some customers will contact us. So we had one with actually it was a scientific organisation that said, we need these 8 apps, and they were really weird ones. So we just did them separately, but they actually ended up only being for that one client. Or we look at the popularity of the apps. We got to like that kind of 350 mark, and we're really, this is across about 25,000 devices. We're getting into like the low tens of copies of certain apps out there. And we're like, we could bump that number up easily if we wanted to, but we kind of pride ourselves saying this is the right set of apps that we want at the moment. I know there's products out there that will do over 1,000 apps, but when you look through the actual list, it's question like some of them, there are some real oddballs out there. But so yeah, that's where we're at the moment. But and again, for any organisation that says, oh, we've got this app, as long as it's publicly available, the installer is publicly available, then we can do it. So, back there.
Can you monitor the health of the MDM service?
Can we what? Sorry.
Can you monitor the health of the MDM service, like a check-in agent for some MDM platforms, as well as whether the device appears to be responding to MDM or DDM commands?
No. So we do from a CIS perspective, one of the CIS controls is devices enrolled in an MDM. And so we monitor that is the case, but that's as far as we go at the moment. And again, I think with a product like this, we could try and guess the things that people might want in the future, but we've got to have a kind of product roadmap that makes sense for everyone and making sure we're doing things that make sense. Some of this is also down to the MDM provider, making sure their MDM agent is running correctly is some burden can go in their direction. But yeah.
Is it possible to rebadge it?
We are working, to a degree, we are working on that. We have seen some issues with the local app, particularly with other products that have got like an app that sits on the device and then the icon kind of changing like day by day and randomly. And
If a user sees Orchid and things update software, no.
yeah,
Straight away. But if you actually saw your company name, logo,
yeah,
it's a trust thing.
yeah. No, that is definitely on our plan. I'm not sure if it'll be in day one, but obviously for version 1, I think there's a bit of testing. A lot of companies are going to want to do a bit of testing with it anyway, because its functionality is pretty critical. But some branding is definitely planned. Within the app, yes, I think one of the issues we've seen in the past is just the app icon, making sure the app is signed, notarized, all the rest of it, but also having a customizable icon is kind of slightly conflicting. But when those screens I showed you back, like here, for example, that kind of stuff, absolutely. Yeah. Anything else? I've got a light on my face, can't you see? Oh, sorry, on there, go that one.
Yeah, about the things that you showed from this screenshot. So many big enterprise companies are moving to the other maybe direction in case of notifying end users. Many of them try to not maybe include screenshots that you have to update and etc. So why maybe you chose that route to give the experience to the end user?
I think because it's, again, under the IT company, I think it's at such a scale, we don't want like calls from users saying, what is this, what is it? Like, we just want it to be nice and clear what they need to do. So just kind of spelling it, not sure they'll read it necessarily, but we would try.
But I mean, maybe us like IT persons, or security teams want to do these in the background and not show everything to the end user.
Mm-hmm. Oh, as in, so why not just run it silently in the background? That would be down to the MDM and the capabilities of the MDM. So like macOS updates, for example. The app updates, you could do that. And you can actually do it now because you can create a group, set it to automatic.
But you still need to enter password.
Not for apps.
For macOS.
For the macOS update, yes. So macOS updates that's why we handle them differently, because we've got MDM or DDM commands, which you could do that. This is an extra layer that you can use as well to say, actually, for those devices that are failing to run the update, we want kind of 100% compliance, not 70% compliance. And Apple macOS software updates have had a rocky past over the last couple of years, so we want that to be run silently. In all honesty, if we could have a tool that ran silently across all the devices, no user interaction, all apps are up to date, macOS, everything's silent, we would do it in a heartbeat. That's always the IT. That's like the end goal. I don't want to have to ask the user to do something, but there's times when you do have to ask the user to do something because it's just the reliable way. So yeah, it's more kind of what works, I think. Sorry, yeah.
Typically got 350 applications patching. What if you wanted to do custom enterprise apps for patching and monitoring those? Is that possible?
Not in V1, and this something we've been learning a bit about software development is don't try and do everything because you may just never launch the products at all. So for version 1, it's these, and then we've thought, well, there's going to be a need. So it's definitely on the plan because we know the companies are going to need to deploy their own stuff, their own enterprise apps. It'll be easily done, but I think it'll be coming shortly after the July kind of date. Yeah, it's kind of, I'd say deployment is one of those types of ones because this is a patching and security tool, but deployment is a logical thing for it to do. But again, we just didn't want to try and do 50 things and then say, yeah, and coming in 2052, you know, we kind of want to stick to this year and do what we do. So, cool. Any other questions? No? All good? Right. Thank you very much.